to say this, I say it to every group that's just first starting, I'm going to say, it's going to seem overwhelming at first, but once you're doing it, even just a couple months, you're going to be like, I can't believe I worried so much about this. And in 1 year, it's going to be even better. So anybody, you can say that, Roka. It's overwhelming at first because there's so much, but don't you catch on to it really quickly? You do, and so do the kids. But I want you to get off started doing it the correct way, because when I first started teaching SIPPS, I did not. So I'm going to share with you the things that I did that really made an impact on the kids, a negative impact on the kids. I want you to remember this, because if you are clear, consistent, concise, and require those core responses, your implementation is going to be so much more effective. We say it's a scripted program, but it's not so scripted just so you know what to say. It's so that the kids know what's coming up, and their responses are the same. I'm going to model one that I did my little Mysore snake. Before I continue on, any question or anything that I said earlier today before launch that you want clarification on?
We need to clarify about the lessons. She had mentioned that after you do the assessment to place them, that don't worry about it, you can move them in groups. Well, not really, because if you've got a student in, like, say, SIPPS plus 16, and they're doing really good in it, so let's move them up to the SIPPS 31 group. Well, that doesn't work because the SIPPS 31 group is already past 31, and the stuff in the 16, you just may not have gotten to it yet that placed them there. So you aren't going to want to move them up from one level to the next level.
Right.
You know, you're going to, where they place, you're going to want to keep them there. It'll show itself eventually what got them into that group. But you were talking about if you have several kids, like several groups at the same spot.
Yes.
You can do shifting there. Yeah.
And most of you aren't going to have that,
No.
just because you have smaller groups. But I was sharing that one of the first grade teachers at HEDOG happens to have 16. How many did I say?
You said 18.
18 kids placed at beginning 11. So we were like, you can't have 18. Well, if they're older kids, you could have 18 in a group. You can't have 18 first graders in a group because you won't be able to hear them the whole time to be able to stay on top of them. So we kind of divided them up by 3 groups of 6, and then we did kind of an ABC schedule so that she won't see them every day because she only see 2 groups a day, but we kind of worked that out. Now she's going to have the luxury of, this whole group is ready to move forward, but this kid is not, that she can still be kind of pretty close, that she can kind of move them around. But you're right, I'm so glad that Trish said that's not going to be the case for 99% of you in here, because you don't have that luxury of having multiple groups of the same, that start at the same level. Okay, thank you, Trish. I had Anna reminded me too when yes, thank you. I remember, but even though you did have to remind me. She works with kids that are 6 to 8. She has a student that placed in plus. He really doesn't have time to waste. So instead of us using the placement assessment, we did the placement assessment where he was. But then we went ahead and looked in the scope and sequence. You'll have a scope and sequence, I think it's Appendix F in the back of your book. And she just has the one student. So we looked through to see where did he miss things that were on the assessment, and she's going to teach those lessons. And then we're going to move him forward. Now, you couldn't do that with a group because most likely they didn't miss the same things. And so you might as well just put them back and go through. But she has just one student in plus. And so then that way we can get him accelerated because we just have one kid. So there is that scope and sequence in the back, and it's going to tell you what each lesson teaches in phonological awareness, what each letter sound you're going to be teaching, and what sight words you're going to be teaching. So you can always look at that. And anything else that we talked about, or you have a question about what I said? Okay, then I'm going to do this one. Let's listen to Dr. Shuffleline again. This is real. I really like this on this.
Because these routines are so critical, SIPPS says that teachers have to really work initially at basically learning these routines, and that involves some memorization of what they say and what they do with hand motions. Initially, this sounds like a lot. The good thing is that we don't have too many of these, and we don't keep adding new ones. So once teachers get the basic routines at a certain level of SIPPS, they're basically move on from day to day to day in a very fluid, sort of comfortable way that they don't have to keep learning more stuff, because we don't change the routines very often. In fact, some of the routines are the same across all three levels. For example, our sight word routine is to read the word, spell the word, read the word. We do that in SIPPS beginning, we do that in SIPPS extension, we do that in SIPPS challenge when we review the sight syllabus.
Okay. Words of wisdom and very true.
Because these routines are so critical.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Remember the structure. The structure of the lesson was phonological awareness, hearing the sounds, phonics, sight words, our teaching instructions and application, guided spelling and reading. Sometimes in the beginning it's reading first and guided spelling, but most of the time it's going to go guided spelling and then reading. But those are the two application pieces. Another thing that Trish and I talked about, when you were first teaching, it's going to take you a little bit longer because it's new to you and it's new to the kids. You're going to look down and say, well, what am I going to do next? What do I have to say? The kids you're going to have to practice with the kids. You're not going to know how to respond. It takes a little bit of practice at first to get them to be oral readers. So all of that's going to go a little slower at first. And then it'll tighten up a little bit more if you actually have that 30-minute time. And sometimes you may not have a full 30 minutes, and so you've got to figure out how to do it. You can split your lesson, and wherever you stop the first day, you just pick right up the next day. I say that even though most of you are like, well, of course that's what I do. But sometimes teachers are like, well, I made it this far. Tomorrow I'll do the next letter. Oh, I made it this far. The problem with that, remember the structure, the application or practice comes at the end of the lesson. And if you happen to skip that all the time, you keep giving them instruction, but they never get to apply it and practice it. So they probably don't own that information. So when you first start, go through as far as you can. When you can't go any farther, you just stop and then pick right back up the next day, and you can kind of stretch it. But the whole time I want you to be thinking, I don't want you to get too comfortable in taking 2 days with every lesson though, because that's stretching out our ability to fill in the gap and get caught up. But do what you need to do, because better that you're doing SIPPS any form or fashion than not to do it at all. So the first one is phonological awareness. So I'm going to model it in a couple different levels. This happens to be beginning. Can you all see that you can see? This is what you would see in your teacher manual. This is beginning, so it's blue. And this is oral blending of the phonemes, so the individual sounds. We don't say the letters because they're not letters for the kids, the sounds. And it's segmented. Kids have to be able to be very efficient at orally blending, putting those sounds together to be able to be readers. They have to be really good at being able to break those sounds apart to be writers. So we practice both of them. So what you see in the margin is what you're going to put on your dry erase board. So what did I do? Dry erase board. Oh, here it is. So your lesson starts this way. If your kids place in beginning, this is one of those high leverage routines. You're always going to have A and B. Use A for the first day, and B is if you need to come back and read. So with A, I'm going to make the 3 lines, and I'm making the arrow. Only beginning has the arrow because we're really, really helping them cement that left to right, left to right, left to right. our brain doesn't think left to right, our brain thinks up and down. So we really have to do this and have kids get solid with it. It doesn't come naturally. So it's going to tell you exactly what you're going to say. So when you see quotations, this says blend. So when I was first teaching, and this is helpful for you, I just highlighted that word blend. I highlighted the word say and sound. So when I looked down, I saw exactly what I was supposed to say, and I didn't. And I kept very, very consistent with that. So instead of me saying, boys and girls, listen to these sounds, guess what you're going to do? The first time you introduce it, you might have to do that. But then after that, they're going to know exactly what to do. It's going to go fast. So it says, I'm going to say the sounds continuously. I taught first grade for a lot of years before I was an intervention teacher. And always when I taught first grade, this is what we did. So we'd sound out a word. Act. To me, it means sat. To my learners, I could put that together, it meant sat. But for the majority of my kids, if I had them say that, they're going to give me a word that starts with the last sound they heard, which is T. So it wasn't until I got SIPPS and doing continuous blending. So it would be sat. And my kids started saying, oh, we're going to be singing our songs. Well, it's not really that. We're just blending them. But a lot of teachers say you keep your voice turned on when you're sounding out your words. So you never have those stops in between. That also helps kids from adding that extra sound. You know, every kid doesn't want to say, stop. That's a stop sound. Instead, he said, the. Well, that distorts the sound, and so you won't be able to sound out that word. So in continuous blending, that's going to be one of the things you have to train yourself to do if you're not used to doing that. So you hold your finger under it, and they say 2 seconds. That's too long. T is a stop sound, so I'm just short and quick with it. So I'm going to say I'm going to say to the kids, blend. I'm going to give them the direction first. And then when I move my finger across is when they chorally respond. So blend. But when you do this part, you're just going to say the word. Down here, I'm going to have you do what I just did. No, that's okay, but you just instruct them. And you say the word. So, it, blend. But you got to do a lot of that at the beginning because they're so excited. They know the word. They're just going to say it right away. But you want it to be choral so that everybody has a chance to say it. So then, yeah, you're just going to say it. My finger's going to go fast. This is how important your finger movements are. Because when I'm going to have them do this one, segmenting, they're going to say Sam.
What?
Sound. Again. Say ant.
Ant.
Sound.
And.
So you're going to have to train your kids to do that because that's a brand new skill for them to blend their sounds together.
And you're not writing the words down for them to see.
Nope.
It's just that.
Yep. Because we really want them just to be listening and listening to the first sound and middle sound. You'll see how we pull this back out again when we're doing guided spelling. They're going to be applying that. So in beginning, high leverage right here with blending and segmenting.
Is there a difference between say and blend?
Yes.
Okay.
No, sound and blend.
Sound and blend.
Sound and blend.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, because blend is band.
Blend is where you're reading the word.
I don't say read because there's nothing to read.
Yeah.
I say blend, means I'm going to blend all my sounds together.
Right.
When I say sound, I'm having you stretch it out. So that's the difference. Well, yes, first I'm gonna sound it and you blend it. Here, I'm having you say it, it's already blended, and you're gonna sound it. So this is oral blending and this is segmenting. Segmenting means I'm breaking it apart. I'm glad you're asking these questions and really processing it.
So they're not gonna see this word at all?
Nope.
They're not gonna see a card or anything?
No,
Okay.
they just see
Checking.
this. They just see right here, they're gonna tell you. And like with A today, I have 3 sounds. if I had to do B, I only have to have 2 lines, 2 sounds. So yeah, it's gonna tell you. And this is where you're gonna be looking down, because at first, to get those, but you gotta be real consistent, because otherwise they don't know what they're supposed to do.
All it is the blanks. See what I did? I just have them read it.
Oh, so they look
Well,
at
no, exactly, that's what, I mean.
I opened it up to. I said read.
That is another part, but that's the phonics part.
Oh,
See,
maybe I was doing it right. I don't
you know, Dakota, you have just made what I'm doing today worthwhile, so thank you for that. If I'm able to clear up some miscommunication.
I did that the first few times too, and then we went back, I mean, it's like,
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, no,
Yes. I was telling Trish at lunch that I went into a school in Newark, New Jersey, and they've been doing SIPPS for a while. And so the purpose of me being there is we kind of looked at the lesson. They watched me teach, but it wasn't to watch me teach. Their job was to observe the kids, because our whole discussion when I was there was not to implement. They have been implementing. It was to talk about the impact on kids and whether they should move everyone forward, would they teach. And so they had the option of not actually teaching, but really watching the kids. And we were walking back, so I got the lesson, we're walking back to the room to debrief it, and a teacher said, I've been teaching A and B every single day in my lesson. And when my colleagues said they got through a lesson in 30 minutes, I kept going faster and faster. I couldn't get through the lesson, I didn't know. And she goes, this has been worth it to me right here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she never thought to ask her colleagues, because she read it as that's what she's supposed to do. So you're gonna have lots of those things. Lots of those things that you're gonna find out from your, wait, that's not how I interpreted it, and that's okay. But I'm gonna show you where you can watch the videos of all the routines. That helps too. Because I've been teaching SIPPS for a little while, and then I went to another classroom just to grab something, and she was teaching, I was like, oh, I thought you did that. So then I went back, watched the video, I've been doing it all wrong the whole time, I didn't know, because that's what I thought it was supposed to be. So that's okay.
when I first started teaching SIPPS, we were the first school in the district to use it, and there was 3 of us that were starting it. And I sat there on the couch with Gordy, my dog, because I was trying to practice.
Did you tell it to blend?
Yeah, I did, and he just looked at
And
me.
now
He
he
gave me
gets
the
the
stink
newspaper
eye.
and reads it, yeah.
But I mean, I just sat there and went through the routines, and he just sat there with me. It was fine, but yeah, he's really smart. But I mean, it was just
He
practicing.
doesn't just get the newspaper. And
Yeah.
he gives her a summary.
Yeah. But just practicing those routines so that you're more comfortable with it.
And that's your only goal this first year that you're doing it, is those 4 C's and get these routines down. And then next year worry about paying, or even later this year, really, but I don't want to put that pressure on you. I want you to allow yourself grace to really do this well, because that's when it's going to be impactful. But then as you do it, I've had teachers say, Kim, it's starting to get kind of boring, I could do this in my sleep. It will get to be that very boring, that you could do it in your sleep. And then I say, that means that you've got automaticity with implementing SIPPS. So now you can have all of your cognitive load going to paying attention to the kids. What kind of errors are they making? You know, how are they doing? How automatic are they? And it will help you tweak and refine your implementation. You will get there. You won't be there right away, because it's going to be all about you first. You have to learn it first. But you'll get to the point that you can do it yourself. And I want you to get to that point. I want you to be automatic with it, because then you become very effective.
And tell the kids, I'm just learning this.
Yes.
You know, tell them, and they'll, I'm just learning this. So if I mess up, we're going to back up and try it again. And I got through a whole lesson. The next day, I'm like, you know what? I did it wrong.
Yeah. And they're okay with that. And they'll be quick to correct you.
Yeah.
If they've been SIPPsters before and you're new to SIPPS, they'll tell you, you're supposed to say da-da-da. Okay.
Yeah.
And there were times when I was an intervention teacher that I went into classrooms, so I didn't have a beginning group, a plus group, a challenge group, an extension group. And even though I thought I was prepared, all of a sudden I look down, and if you see one of those QR codes in your lesson, that means that you either have a new routine that just got added because developmentally it's a new routine, or they've kind of tweaked it to where you're doing a little bit less and the kids are doing more. And I'd be like, uh-oh. So instead of me taking the time to read it, I just hold my phone over. Boys and girls, we're going to watch this new routine, and let's see how we do, because we get to do something different now because you're just so smart. You're learning so much. So we'd all watch the routine together, and they'd be like, yeah, well, I think we can do that. Okay, and then we just do it together. Rather than me mess up and then have to go back and redo it, which you can do that too. The kids, matter of fact, the more that happens, the more mutual respect you have for each other. You know, so there's nothing wrong with that either. All right, so let me do one more world blending, one more segmentation before I show you what the correction is. So your daily routine, I'm gonna go, and blend. Well, I can give you, I'm going to show you the correction. Just one second. All right, so if I heard somebody in my group that didn't get all, that they made an error, it's going to tell you. So it says model the correct response by saying the sound slowly without pausing between them and then saying the word as you point to the parts. So if I heard just and, missed the first, then I'm going to go through and say and fan, and then I'm going to have you do it with me. Because maybe the error wasn't an error in the sound, but it was an error, I don't know how to do this yet, and that's okay. But
or an error in hearing request, because I thought you said and.
See, there you go. Or they didn't hear it. But you notice I don't say, Samuel, pay attention to me. You don't do that. Because there's safety in core response. Not, our kids don't always feel so comfortable with this skill. So we want to build that it's safe to be heuristic. And so you were listening and observing. So, you know, I would remember if Samuel had a bunch of times that he missed the first sound, then I kind of mark that down as my own notes. So I really make sure I enunciate and I look at him to make sure he hears me. So that's the observation. After you learn it, that's really going to be helping you teach. All right, segmenting. Say ran. Sound. All right, and then here it is, same thing. If I hear anybody have an error, then I'm gonna model it, and then I'm gonna do it. All right, that happens in the beginning. Extension, we're gonna elevate phonological awareness. So in the extension, we have what's called manipulation. So now I want kids to listen to the parts, and I'm gonna ask them to either segment a part, or they're gonna change a part. So in this one, I'm having them hear the blend full. I'm having them really concentrate that there's two sounds that make a full, because they need that responding. Many times if you teach the lower reading, you think about the word dress, and a lot of kids read that as Jess with a J, or they'll spell it, they'll read dress, but they'll spell it with a J, because that DR sound sounds like that. So, in this one, this is what I do on my chart. So this is the only thing they see, not these words. Not these words. This is what they see.
Say.
So, and this is what I'm going to, only in quotations, I'm going to say. A lot of teachers, the very first time they come across this, they don't know what to do. That's why I chose this one. So I'm going to say plug, drop the, what's left?
Plug.
Wow, you got it right. Say prod, drop the
Prod.
And you'll get to see, once you do this for a while, you already knew what was coming. So I would say pride.
Pride.
I don't even have to say what's left. You know. And that's the consistency of doing this all the time. And that's how it goes faster. They stay engaged because your finger starts to do the talking for you. In this case, again, if they make a mistake, I'm going to model for them and ask them to do it again. Because many times you'll have the kids keep the, I'll say plug, they'll say ugh. You know, you'll see that right away at the very beginning. All right, so that's the name corners. And it goes really fast. And I usually just use a dry erase board to do it. And then the next part is your phonics and your decodable words. So, let me see if I brought this up with me. I'll let you read the routine up there. Let me see if I brought this stuff to do it with. No, I don't have that particular one, but I have to. The very first time that you introduce a new sound to them, you've got this whole introducing routine. And then after that, you just have review. So the way it goes first is, it's going to tell you present the sound in a simple sentence. These charts, I either could write the sentence on my dry erase board, but I'm going to show you where you can just print these. And then I print them. The one time I teach the lesson, I stick it in with my lesson manual, and you never have to print it again. I saw a teacher that put them in these, a little bit better, because then you can write off and write on and write off. So I think that little place. So I'm going to introduce the new sound in a sentence. My reading is round. We're supposed to start a new sound. And it's even going to help you know, oh, this one doesn't. But when it's introducing R, they're going to tell you, say the R sound with your mouth closed. Because many of our kids want to say ruh. R says ruh. Well, it doesn't. It says ruh. So they're even going to help you in the beginning, give you those little helpful hints if you're instructing them with it. My ring is round. Our sound card is a ring. So when you see the sound card, that's going to remind you that R makes a sound of okay, and then this is going to be either posted or you're going to have them. I traveled into classrooms, so I couldn't have all this, so I had them all on a sheet. So then I just showed them here. Then you're going to have the sound card. Got all this stuff out. Is it still in? Thank you. Thank you, Roka. Oh. So then I'm going to say, after I showed them, I'm going to say, my turn. My turn again. Together. Again. Your turn. Again. And then I'm going to put this card in my review cards somewhere. And I'm going to say sound, and again. So sound. Oh, you're going to hold it again. Look, I'm not even have to say anything anymore. That's how quick they learn it, and then look how fast I can keep this going. And everybody's engaged the whole time. Now, for this correction, let's say, I'm not going to mess up this one. We probably would mess up this one. So sound. Good. It's an if because it's beginning. Only because it's beginning.
Got the
And
line
we
out
don't,
for it.
yes, yes, and that helps you know too.
What's the sound where it's like vowel, consonant, vowel? That's the long.
If it's long, it's gonna say I dash with the E.
Okay.
Or it's gonna say IGH.
Okay.
Or it's gonna say, so you'll have the whole spelling. So when they see it just like this, it's just this. So if someone says the long sound instead,
So it's a vowel.
I'm gonna go to my,
Just tell me what's
oh, I love these. I'm gonna go to my cat card. So if I heard an I, I'm not gonna say see. I need the other sound. Instead, I'm gonna say the sound is, and they're gonna say in, and then I'm gonna say sound. So then I'm gonna say sound again. And then I'm gonna put it back in so I come again to it that day. Let me tell you, this is another thing. All my life when I taught, I'm trying to tell my kids, the short sound is a really quick sound. The long sound is, my arm is long. Meant nothing. I said it over and over to my kids, meant nothing. Because what does short and long sound mean to begin with? The beautiful part about this is the short vowels are on the cat cards. Only ones are on the cat cards. And it's where is the cat that helps with the sound. So the cat is at the chair. The cat is at the edge of the chair. The cat is in the chair. The cat is on the chair. The cat is under the chair. A revolutionary. My kids got it. They got it. Matter of fact, when we started to do a guided spelling, they'd say, Mrs. Handy, there's a cat card in every one of these words. I think you might be right. Let's stop what we're doing. Let's all start looking. Yeah, I don't see any word that we've ever written or an author has ever written that doesn't have at least one cat card in it. And that's the kind of stuff that when they start to write, so the cat cards, they all love the cat cards. This is only usually the hardest one for us adults to remember. Where's that cat? Edge. But otherwise, because there's so little difference between those sounds, they get it. They just get it. Anybody that's taught beginning already, I know Tricia has, Rook, I know you have. Anything else to say about those cat cards?
The kids really like them.
They love them.
Really like them.
They love them. And these look so much better. I remember the first edition of SIPPS that I was using as my spiral. These cats weren't really not that attractive. The kids didn't care, but these are much better too. All right, so that's introducing a sound. Most of the days you're not introducing a new sound, you're just going to be reviewing, and it's really, really quick. I rarely got rid of the cards out of here, but if you have like an S or an M and they're having no problems with it, get rid of it. You don't need to have to go through that many cards. So you decide. Please do. Please do.
It's a pre-KD topic, because I was having kids that were past the time that we needed to be in SIPPS with my kindergartners, and they were still struggling to learn their letter names. So we would add and say sound, name, A.
Yep.
On every one to get the double practice with them because they didn't recognize what that letter was. That wasn't part of the program, but she gave me that clue because they didn't have all the letter names yet. And they were still struggling.
Yep.
That's actually how I learned the long sound for a month of that when I was little, Matt. Because like long sound is its name, so if you say the letter,
Yeah,
that's the long
I
sound.
used to say that to my kids too, but again, that's so abstract to them, short and long. Because there's nothing about the size of it that is short or long. That was so. But you're right; it says its name. Yeah. But you, as a teacher, are gonna have to be careful with that and just say, cat card, because that's what they're always gonna see, and when we expect them to use these sound cards independently without us.
The little copies, is that something that's on the website?
Yes,
too?
it's on the website. Matter of fact, even if you have them posted, I still recommend to have it here. So when you're working with them, because for our little kids to look over there and then you're farther away, then I'd throw them right here.
So we had, for our SIPPS groups, we had a folder that had the prongs in the middle and then the pockets. And do you have one of them?
Yeah.
Did you steal one of Rose?
No,
Oh, okay.
this is the one I use.
Okay, but for like the plus and the challenge where we were doing, we had the sound cards clipped in the middle, and we had the sight word bank clipped in the middle, and then they could keep their spelling book in the front pocket, and then they would just have those in front of them because like during the spelling and stuff, they can be looking at their sight words if they need to be writing them down. But they had easy access to them and they could see them readily.
Yes, you can run them in color
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough to have access to a color printer. Otherwise, they come black and white too, print either way. For my beginning kids, I didn't make them two-sided because that was one more thing with littles. I didn't want that aggravation, so they just did it this. As a matter of fact, when my kids were just in the beginning of beginning, then I had them colored. So then they could find those in amongst all of this. And then we kept adding, and they're like, look at all the sounds we know, which is great. You're also going to see they're going to have a sight word bank. For beginning, there's 2 of them. This is the first one. They're going to use it for lessons 1 through 40. And then once you get to lesson 41, all of these words are added on to the other ones. But this is too many for them at first to use, so they use this. And you actually instruct them and teach them, what sound do you hear? Okay, let's find the letter at the top. Now slide down, and everybody touch that word, and then they're going to use that guided spelling. And I have them use this in guided spelling. So I have them have these resources out. Because then when I'm not here, and then I let my kids, some teachers just make this and they just keep it, and then when their kids come up, they pass it out. I let my kids take it back to their seats with them because I wanted them to have access to this when they're writing or when they're doing anything else during the day. And then the books come where you can print them like this. So then I started having my kids, they could take this back because then during reading practice, they could practice any of the past books that they had. And I knew what they had in front of them was stuff that they could read. It's so hard when they're emerging readers, when they don't have that much knowledge in. And then we'll show you, this is with guided spelling when we get to that. Sure. It depends. If they're young kids, I like giving them the real book because they're using all their print concepts to turn pages, they see a picture. If they're older, you could easily do this and not worry about getting the books out. And then this looks like a bigger book to begin with. So you decide. My K1ers, I did the real book. And then I sent this home to practice. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. There's tons of things in there, and again, I don't want you to get overwhelmed with everything that's there. Just take it slowly. Whoops. Okay. So I told you how to introduce. I showed you how to do. This is exactly, you learned this routine in beginning, exactly the same routine in extension. So this is, again, one of those routines. Once you know it, you know it. And it never changes. So every day you're going to be either introducing, not very often, but you're going to review every day. And don't forget that piece. Even if you think all your kids know their sounds, it's got to be with automaticity. I got to be able to do it fast. All right. So then after that is called is decodable words. So now this is a chance of putting it together. We've just reviewed their sounds. Now this is where they do see the list. So maybe this is what you were. This was probably what you were thinking
jumping.
about.
No,
yeah.
I didn't. So you don't even show them the word when you're doing the sound thing.
Nope. Nope. Just if you see those lines, that's all they see.
What's the reasoning behind that?
The reason is because we want them to be able to orally hear the individual sounds in a word and practice that blending before we mess it up by adding letters to it.
When simple teachers speak, you're training their ears to hear the sound.
That is true. And they have to be able to hear the sound to write the word themselves. So that's kind of where that comes from. So now I've attached those letters, and so now I'm going to go back and you're going to see that same thing that I did with the sounds. I'm going to do it here. And I'm going to say, but this time, I'm going to say sound, again, read, not blend, because I have letters to read with. So I'm going to say sound, again, read, sound, again, read. And you'll get to where you're not saying anything. They just know from your finger what they're supposed to be doing. I'm telling you, it goes so fast. Now this one though, if I hear, maybe for this one, I heard someone say ran instead of ram, which is really much, then I'm going to look at my cards. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to look at my cards. Oh, I got the wrong one out. Okay. Let me pull it out. There's two different sound cards depending on what you're teaching. Well, here, let me show you where it is real quick. On your portal, those sound cards are general resources. There's all your stories that you can print. There's that sight word dictionary from the beginning of the lesson, or the beginning of SIPPS, or the later part of SIPPS. This is that guided reading page, and we'll see that in a minute. Here's the sound called reproducible, black and white, colored. Okay, so I heard someone when I was doing that say ran instead of ram. So what I'm going to do is say sound, 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 read. So you notice, never do I say, boys and girls, that's an M. It makes the sound. Instead, I'm building independence. I'm building the use of a resource. So instead, I heard someone, doesn't matter who, and sometimes everyone says it correctly, and I still model this because I need to model it. So then I'm going to point to what the sound is, say it, here, and read it.
No, you're gonna have people going, that was Josie. That was her.
Oh yeah. I completely ignore that, and then later on I talk to them. But at the time, keep on going. And then later on, not right after the lesson, because that's very obvious. Later on, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Sometimes we make a mistake, we feel really bad about it. No, I don't want to say it, because we all are going to be in that someday. Yes. And then when someone does make a mistake, I can belie that person, just to say, remember when I talked about it? So, you know, us teachers have that eye. I used to all the time click when I'm like clicking to my kids, like, you know, I'm teaching small group how to do this, and of course whoever's doing what they're doing know that. And I guess I started doing a little too much. My husband one time said, if you click it one more time, I didn't even know I was. I said, okay. Or you're at McDonald's and you feel that need, on to that. I'm not a teacher right here, right now. Okay, so that's that. Let's get back to here. I want you, I'm showing you the correction routines because it's important, but I want you first to focus on just getting those routines down. And don't think, oh, what was that correction routine? Just keep on moving on. You'll pick up those correction routines as you go along. Don't get too worried about it right at first. All right, so now that's what we do. We're doing all that blending and then reading because we're still really teaching them that continuous learning. As we get to our older kids, you're going to have what's called a mixed list. I'm going to mess up all my stuff all over here. In their mixed list, we're starting to transition for our kids to be able to do that decoding in their head. So how this happens is, and you're going to have that routine. It's going to be called point, pause, and you're going to say read. So I'm going to point, and I told my kids, when you think you have this word figured out, I want you to look me in the eye. Some teachers I saw gave a sign. Well, you know, as soon as my next door neighbor gives a sign, I'm going to give a sign. Whether I figured it out or not. And we want our kids all to have the opportunity to take their time to get it figured out. We don't want to rush because this is application for them. And if we rush and they just repeat what their neighbor said, they're not really learning. And then whenever they're reading their story, they're not going to be able to read it. We're going to wonder, why didn't they read it? So, point and pause, and you need to make eye contact. And then that way your neighbor doesn't know if you looked at me or not. And then I'm going to hear what you said, so then I'm going to know if you're looking at me prematurely, and then I can talk to you later about that. So point, see that everybody's ready, and take your time on this. Don't feel rushed, because this is important. And then I'm going to say read. You're going to go through all of them exactly like that. Same routine. If you hear a wrong sound, you're going to go to the sound card and say sound, or you're going to go back, sound, or, and then I'm going to say read. Yeah. So same routine. I don't tell you what it is.
How many times per week should the lesson be carried out?
Ideally, you would teach this every single day. Ideally, you would be able to teach an entire lesson a day. Ideally. but some SIPPS is better than no SIPPS. So as much as you can get in, we most of the time say 3 times a week, but when we're talking about 5 days a week, you have less than that. So, but a minimum of 3 days a week because they can't carry it. They need the practice. They can't carry it if you do it less than that. So 3 days a week is a minimum. But it may not be minimum for you because you got a different setup. All right, so there was that. And they always like those challenge words at the end. Like, there's a little space when you get it. And I said, oh, here's the challenge. I don't know if you guys will get them today. Oh, they buckle down for that. All right, sight words, really simple. It's same routine no matter what level you're teaching. You make some rhyme or reason for me here. No, you don't have to. Okay, when I introduce it for the very first time, I'm going to introduce it in a sentence. Oh yeah, I'll just use this one right here. The first time I introduce it, I'm going to introduce it in a sentence. You'll notice when I introduce a sound, I get in a sentence. When I introduce a sight word, I do it in a sentence because that's the end goal. I want to see the big end goal, and then I'm going to back it up. So, she likes to swim. Our new sight word today is sheep. So then I'm going to show it to them. Thank you. I'm going to show it to them, and I'm going to say, my turn, sheep. And then I'm going to say, your turn, sheep. So, spell.
S-H-E. Sheep. S-H-E. Sheep.
So when you're first introducing it, you do read, spell, read, spell.
Read, spell.
Read, spell, read,
There's
spell.
extra terms.
Oh yeah, there's one.
When you introduce it, it's read, spell, read, spell, read.
Yes.
And then when you review it, when they're in the review pile, it's read, spell, read.
Yeah, they only, the first one they spell it twice. The second one they spell it one time and read. Okay, yep, okay, yep. This is a place if I have littles, or if you have a fishing group, this is a place by now I let my kids stand up, so that when we're doing this, sometimes they like to do this, and you know how we know that movement gets things into kids' memory a lot better, movement and music, and so I start to add a little bit of rhythm to it as they're saying it, and this is where I let them stand, and really, sometimes they do this, they just need to, and then they sit back down. If your kids don't need it, don't add it, it'll be a distraction. But if they need it, that's really appropriate. So we do the read, spell, read, and then you have your whole set after you introduce that you go through. Now you'll get to where you have quite a few. You don't want to take that much time on the lesson, so it'll tell you to divide your words in half. Just do half the set of sight words one time, the other half another time. I made a big deal of retiring words, so I'd say boys and girls. I've been watching you spell, I've been listening to you read, and you know what? You don't need this word anymore. So guess what? We're retiring it. I make a big deal of throwing it in the air and I pick it up later. Because you know this word. This word is already in your head, and when you come to it, you don't need to practice anymore. So know that you can do that too, because you'll get a lot. Also know there are certain times in a lesson that you introduce a lot of words and they're really tricky. It is okay to pause your SIPPS lesson and just spend a day just working with your sight words. And then go back to teaching. Okay, so you already saw that. You review sentence. Here it says you review 15 to 20 words. The correction is, there's nothing they can use. The correction is you saying, boys and girls, this word is, and I just tell you, and you spell, and then I put it back in my pack to review right away again that day before. That's your correction. Reading a story is very tricky. I'm just going to tell you that, yeah, you got to see that. Okay, for beginning, the first reading, okay, this is what it looks like. Did I bring the story closer? All right, this is one of those things that when I read this routine, I was like, this is going to be so laborious. And it is laborious. And one group I had, I kind of shortened it because this is towards the end, and that group didn't move along there as well. I'm teaching a whole lot of skills when I do this. So if it's an underlined word, it's a sight word. So that teaches them right away. Oh, if it's underlined, it's just got to pop right out of my mouth. I can't sound it out. So this eliminates kids going, it's underlined. And so I'm going to say, read, sound, couple sentences, and then I'm going to talk to you some more about it. Read. Sound.
Mat.
Read.
Mat.
Read.
A mat.
Read.
I sat on the mat. Mat.
Skip that, okay. Read.
I sat on the mat.
When I did this the first time, I was like, you've already sounded out math. They know math now. You're not teaching the kids the word math. You're teaching the skill that I always start at the beginning of the word, and every single time I blend it if it's a blendable word. I'm also teaching them, once you slow down to figure out a word, you go back and reread the sentence. Because how many of our kids, even our older readers, don't do that? They slow down to figure out the word. They never go back to read it for meaning or comprehension. So you're really giving them lots of skills here. And you'll have kids say, teacher, we already know that word. I know, but I'm not teaching you that word. I'm really teaching your brain that every time you come to a word, you put your finger at the beginning, and you slide all the way through every single time, unless it's a sight word, which is already there. So you do this routine all the way through. The next day, I'm going to read it quickly or just do half of it as a review. But you hand out, this is their books for SIPPS. You hand out this little book for them. It's this exact same story poster, but broken up into pages. They all start reading, and you lean in and listen to see how they're doing independently now with this. And they are so excited because they know this whole story. Then you can print that sheet that goes with it, and you can put it in there. And I just kept putting new ones on top because I want them to practice reading the story at least 3 times, if not more, because I want it to become automatic for them. And then they have behind that, after they read that, then they've got old stories that they can read. So, seems kind of laborious, but it's so important. So that's for beginning. You will do that through about lesson 41, so 1 through 41, and then you'll have one of those instructional checks that ask you, how are your kids doing with that routine? Do you feel they're ready to kind of start blending in your head? If so, give that a try. So that means the next day, instead of blending through it, you're just going to have them read it and see how they do. If they don't make any mistakes, that means that's okay. That's what we want to get them. If you start hearing errors, what are you going to do? Go back to blending again, because it means it's not solid for everyone. It may be solid for them in an isolated word, but it's not solid in a sea of print. That's a whole different story. In extension, you have a book that looks like this. We only control their vocabulary or their text that they're reading through lesson 23. There are 40 lessons. Once we get through from 23, starting with lesson 24, they're going to be practicing reading the books that they're reading in their classrooms. So they have to be books that they are reading. So that's where you start to have a little more control with that, that they have books that they're supposed to read. So they're going to start out, you're going to have them read it inside their head, then you're going to have them read them together. So you very much control it at the beginning. So they read in their head, the listener then choral read it sentence by sentence, then later on they're going to read a bigger section inside in their head, and then they're going to choral read it, and that's going to get to where they're going to be reading in a quiet voice, and you're leaning in and listening to them, to where you get like the end, they're reading inside their head. So again, it's going to step. The directions in your book will tell you what to do, but if you don't, your kids aren't ready to move on to that next release of responsibility, keep them where they are. If they can't read this book successfully, if they make all kinds of errors, don't go any farther to 6 yet. Go back and reread some old stories, do a lot of other reading things, because it means that you went so fast that they reverted now back to just guessing. And so they don't know those skills. If you keep on going, it's not going to matter because that foundation is already crumbled. So stop and go back. Slow to go fast. Slow to go fast. That's your verification. Let me show you what guided spelling looks like. Guided spelling is another game changer. Do not skip it. That froze up. Oh, no, I don't want to watch that. Plus has has this book. So this is my plus. They don't have very much in it. They have a sight word. They have all the same things. This is what their guided spelling looks like. It's because they're older. This is plus readers. The first, how many selections? The first 5 selections. The first you're gonna print out off the portal. Yeah, this starts with lesson 6. So the first 5 reading passages that go with plus you're gonna print those off. And then you'll see, I mean, look how this is easy at the beginning because these kids are back there. This is what they need. But it's not going to look like to everybody else that it's easy. There's a ton of nonfiction for them, which again, appreciates what they know. And it doesn't look babyish, but yet the words are made up of the sight words and the sounds. It's direct application.
And the reading procedure is different with that, where it's not when you're doing the reading with them, they each have their book and they're just going to go ahead and read it out loud to themselves, and you're going to listen to them each be reading, and they should be reading it 3 times. And I talked to the kids about, okay, I need to hear you read it 3 times. Sometimes, depending on time, they might read it twice one day and once the next day. But we talk about you're reading it the first time to make sure you're working your way through the words. The second time, you're reading it to make sure you're catching what they're talking about. And the third time, you're going to read through it for the fluency that you're reading it well. And they don't usually complain about having to read it 3 times.
No, not at all.
There's some questions
Because they feel success. So.
Yeah, there's some questions then after they've read that you talk about from the book. So.
Yeah, we don't teach comprehension, but we also say anytime you interact with text, you should be understanding what you're reading. So there's always some short little,
like 2, maybe 3.
Again, just to remind them, the idea is not that you got every word correct. The idea is that you understand what you're reading. All right, the very last one I'm just going to show you, guided spelling. But when you go onto the portal, your lessons are here. Animations and videos have all the videos. You'll find them in your lesson book when they come up. But if you don't remember when they were introduced, you can always go here and find all of them. These are animations, but then I like to go to videos. These are the videos, so I'm going to show you a video. In SIPPS beginning, the first things they are doing is you're dictating a sound. So you're going to say S, right, S, and they're going to be writing the S. And then you get to, once you introduce blending, you're going to say the word, and then you're going to write the sounds. You get out your dry erase board again, and you say at, you're going to say at, you're going to say first sound, write at, not saying write a, write at, next sound, write, and then you're writing. For a lot of my kids, guide spelling's game changer. That's awesome. This makes sense to me now that they're the ones that are doing it. It really makes sense. You're always going to have dictation sight words. That's where I teach them how to use a sight word dictionary. But I should never see a sight word written wrong because you have it right here. And so you need to use your resources. Smart kids use their resources. And then you're also going to have a sentence. I want to show you dictation sentence because I think a lot of teachers don't quite do this to make them as independent as they can be. That's not what I want. You have this too. See, they recognize I'm on here. It says, do you need, I'm here to chat. Do you need some support? So that's always there. But I don't want it right now. Sorry. Okay, this is the very last thing. Not a ton. So this is the very last thing I'm going to show you. And then you're good to go. Oh my God.
Now you will write a sentence. Say, they rode fast.
They rode fast.
First word?
They.
What's special about the first letter in a sentence?
It's a capital letter.
And I say it
Is
every
they a
time.
sight word?
Yes.
Write they, and remember where to look if you are not sure how to spell the word.
You notice I'm not telling them it's a
Next
sight
word?
because I want them to know them.
Road.
Question,
Which O?
write road. Last word?
Fast.
I'll sound it out slowly. Fast. Write fast. Put a period at the end of the sentence. Read and spell each word as I write the sentence.
They. T-H-E-Y. Road. R-O-D-E. Fast. F-A-S-T.
Usually I wait till they say period. But do you see the level of support she gave? She's having them hold on to the sentence in their head. She's not saying it over and over again. Because they need to hold on to a sentence when they're doing their own writing. They're not going to have someone keep repeating what they need to write. And then she just asked them sight word, sound out word, so they could write it. And then always reminded them, how does it start? And usually I said, how does the sentence end? And they say punctuation. What they said every single time. They did it. But then I didn't read the sentence. Now they read the writing. They spelled it to me, and I wrote it. Seems like it takes a long time, but look at all the independence there. All right, speaking of independence, I'm gonna let you fly. Everything you need is right there. Otherwise, I'm back in October. Trish is gonna be with me in October, and then you'll have her when I'm not here in November, December, January, and then maybe both in February. So get started, because I can't observe you or teach a lesson for you if you're not started. And you're not going to know what to ask me when I come in October if you don't have any questions because you didn't do anything. All right. Thank you. I had a really great week here this week. I got to start the long haul back to Omaha tonight.